Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Good evening and welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth with me, your host, Peter Robbins. For this third broadcast, I had originally thought, as I mentioned in the first one, to begin the show with just a few minutes of this and that, thoughts on books you might want to read, films you might want to see, current events, not that there's been anything in the news this week really worth going over. I will say special thanks to the wonderful folks at KGRA for spending an incredible amount of money to create this digital backdrop behind me that actually looks like I'm in a room filled with books, giving the impression that I might be intelligent. If I wanted to take my headset off and stand up and take a book off the shelf, this is high-level digital technology at its best. But I'm going to sit here and allow that illusion to persist. In fact, tonight, I'm going to begin with some reflections on a friend of many of ours in the UFO community who died of COVID just this past week. Angela Joyner was a smart, beautiful, and compassionate person, a professional reporter whose great love in life in these last years was being a mother and a grandmother, a wife, and a good friend to more people than many of us had imagined. She was a newspaper reporter for the Stevensville, Texas, Stevensville Empire Tribune until January of 2008. When she covered responsibly and I think brilliantly one of the most extraordinary UFO sighting reports in the literature. The witnesses were all credible. They ranged from local folks, professional, farm workers, a private pilot and businessman, to law enforcement personnel. And as far as either her editor, publisher, or the owner of the newspaper went, she covered it too well. They were looking for something a little more wink, wink, nudge, nudge, have a little fun with the story. She would not back down, and she was fired. That was how we met. She and her beloved husband, Randall, contracted the virus last month, and it hit them both very hard, just after New Year's. Randall took a turn for the worse about a week and a half ago, went into the local ICU, and followed fairly shortly thereafter by Angela. He died one day before she did. And I think a lot of us who knew her were shocked at how close she allowed us to get to her and how kind and thoughtful she was to so many of us. It's the ripple in the pond effect. We have no idea sometimes how the lives we live affect the people around us. So here's to you, Angela. This show is dedicated to you. We will always miss you and are very thankful to have had you in our lives. The fact is that, as we all know, this damn pandemic hits closer and closer all the time. It will get worse before it gets better, and it will get better. Right now, tonight, the wonderful producer who actually brought me into KGRA and the mellifluous voice that you hear in the voiceover over the wonderful theme for Meanwhile Here on Earth, written by my dear friend and soul brother Albert Bouchard, founding member of the Blue Oyster Cult, And I'm talking here about Race Hobbs. Race and his amazing wife, Robin, are both down with the virus, but hardly out. Race, we love you. We are so glad that so far so good, and especially glad that you are at the helm tonight. So here's to you, brother. That said, tonight's guest, Robert Salas, was born in Chandler, Arizona, and served 7 years on active duty before separating from the United States Air Force in 1971. While in the service, he worked as a weapons controller, flew target drones, commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as a launch officer, and he was an Air Force missile propulsion engineer on the Titan III program. From 1971 to 73, he worked as a safety and reliability engineer for Martin Marietta Aerospace and Rockwell International on space shuttle design proposals. From 1974 until his retirement in 1995, he was employed by the Federal Aviation Administration as an aircraft structures certification engineer. And from 91 to 93, he served as an FAA attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Indonesia, advising that government on aircraft certification. In 1998, Salas earned a Master's of Education degree from the University of Washington, then was employed as a high school mathematics teacher until 2016. In 2005, he published the book Faded Giant with co-author James Klotz, which details the UFO incident he was involved in while stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967. In 2013, he published his second book, Unidentified, the UFO Phenomena, Unidentified the UFO Phenomena, providing new details on the phenomena as a whole. On September 27, 2010, Robert Salas co-sponsored a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where he and 6 other ex-military witnesses testified to the reality of UFO incidents at U.S. nuclear bases. In May 2013, he participated in the citizens' hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. as well. Robert has spoken in numerous U.S. cities and at international conferences in Norway, France, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, Italy, Bulgaria, South Africa, Costa Rica, Peru, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. He has been publicly speaking about these incidents at UFO conferences, in print media, on the radio, and on television since 1996. How are you doing tonight, Bob?
I'm doing just fine, Peter. Staying healthy, staying away from that virus.
Marilyn as well?
Marilyn as well. We're all in good shape. We have been. Since we think we got exposed to this virus back in Italy when we were there last October, a year from last October. We think we got exposed then. And so we've been fighting this using natural substances, of course, since that time.
Good. To get into our evening together, you were born in Chandler, Arizona. Can we start by you telling us a little bit about your family, your mom and dad?
Okay. Well, my mom and dad were both born in Mexico. My mom became a naturalized citizen when Arizona became a state, so she had her citizenship. My dad was here on a green card, and when he met my mom, and when they got married, about 1938, we lived in Los Angeles, the East Los Angeles area, for when I was growing up. My father was a registered pharmacist in Mexico, but was not a registered pharmacist in the U.S., so he worked But during World War II, he did work one of the pharmacies owned by his brother, and all his life he worked at that pharmacy. Let's see, I was one of 6 children, and I think you have a photo there. We could probably show it later.
Yeah, let me bring up those photos. We'll start with one cute baby, I must say.
Yeah, really cute baby there.
And this great family shot.
Yeah, there's my mother, father, and 6 of us.
And a younger Robert Salas here.
Very young. My end of my first year at the Air Force Academy. That's why I'm so thin there. They worked us pretty hard.
Bet.
This was taken in 1968, just after my incident. I was still at Malmstrom. Here's my beautiful wife, Marilyn, and I. This is our wedding picture.
It's great.
Taken in Dayton, Ohio, where we met.
This was not at the wedding.
No, this was not at the wedding. This was taken at the facility near Rapid City, South Dakota. They've got a mock-up of the Minuteman launch tube and capsule there, and that's where we filmed a session, a TV session. And I think you're in this shot, Peter.
I am, third from the right, and you are second from the left, if I am correct.
I'm standing actually next to Timothy Good, who played a pivotal role in my coming forward with my story. This was taken in UK. Yeah, I think 2012 maybe.
Probably thereabout. And for those who are not aware, because some of our listener viewers are fairly new to our subject, where others are veterans, Timothy Good is certainly one of, if not the most respected name in the world of modern UFO studies in the United Kingdom, and certainly a friend and mentor to me as well. And here's a really nice shot of you too.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Timothy Good, I could not have, I probably wouldn't have spoken about my incident ever.
Wow. Can you tell us why that was, Bob?
Well, in 1995, I think, 95, I was at a bookstore in Seattle, and I happened to pick up a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy. And, this is a true story, Peter. A lot of people don't believe this, but I just opened the book up. I just happened to open the book up, which is a large book. And
a very large book.
I happened to open up to page 301 and saw a very short paragraph talking about missiles being shut down during a UFO incident.
Oh, boy.
In 1967 in Montana. So that was what got me going. I got excited because I thought it was my incident from the description. And I made a decision. It was a risky decision because I had signed a document saying I would never speak of my incident.
Yes.
And, under penalty of going to Leavenworth prison, by the way. And I asked a friend, Jim Klotz, to send a FOIA request, about the shutdowns described in his book. I didn't mention anything about UFOs in that request, but the Air Force wrote back and said, well, this is classified, but since it's been so long, we're going to declassify it and we'll send you documents. And as soon as I received some documents about the, what I'll call the Echo flight shutdown, I started speaking openly that it was, in fact, a UFO event, because now it was declassified, and I thought that this was my incident. It was not.
Goodness.
I didn't find out until 2 years later. So technically, I'm still in violation of that non-disclosure statement that I signed.
If this works out for the worst, Bob, you will make sure that we all have your mailing address at Leavenworth so we can write to you?
Sure, you bet.
Good.
I'd appreciate receiving letters at Leavenworth.
Ideally with a little saw inside. Moving on. Here we are at the National Press Club together.
Yes. You can see a lot of people you probably recognize there.
Yeah. And an extraordinary event that was. And again, eternal thanks to the amazing Stephen Bassett, as hard a working man as ufology has ever seen, in bringing us all together for those 5 days of hearings.
Yeah, Stephen was amazing organizing that, and he's been amazing throughout the years. I think I met Stephen first in, 2005, something like that.
Yeah.
But he's been pushing for disclosure with his PRG group since then.
Yeah. And a photo of you with a certain gentleman at that event?
That's Hellyer, Paul Hellyer, previously MOD, Minister of Defense of Canada.
Yes. Who takes this subject extremely seriously.
You bet. He's still going strong, I think. He's in his 90s now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's extraordinary to think of somebody who was at that level. It would be like having a Robert McNamara or somebody at that level in the American government lecturing at American UFO conferences.
Yes. And Linda Moulton Howe, she was very instrumental. She put me on the I'm trying to think of his name now. Anyway, it was Art Bell. Yes, Art Bell in 1996, I think it was November. She was the one that first interviewed me on radio about my incident. That went national. Yeah.
Yep. You were on a year before my first time on that legendary show, and we certainly miss Art.
Yes, we do.
And again, back at the disclosure event at the National Press Club, you on the right.
Yeah, that's me, Dave Shindelli.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of his name. Man next to him, who's now passed away.
We have Gary Hazeltine from the UK on the far left, and yes, I don't remember that gentleman's name either. Again, we're going to come back to our timeline, but I want to go through these photos now. And this very compelling photo, I just wanted to show it now, but we will come back to it because your UFO experience were not limited to that historic event in Montana in 1967.
That's right. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah. So, continuing where we left off, were there any abiding lessons? We all learn things from our folks, but were there any abiding lessons from your mom and your dad that you carried with you to the present into adult life?
Absolutely. I don't know how I can summarize what I learned from my mom, other than she was a very strong woman, religious woman. She had to be strong to keep us all together during the period when we were all growing up. I think what I learned from her most was don't quit. Keep going, don't quit. Give it your best. Of course, she wanted me to do well. She supported me to the hilt. I'll never forget her. And of course, I miss her a lot. She lived to be about over 98 years old, almost 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she was very instrumental in keeping me sane, keeping me away from the gangs, that were all around us, really, where we had our home. My dad, he had some difficulties, with alcohol. And so, I found myself having to, work hard to keep the family, especially the siblings, together and working together but my dad was also, very loving and, hardworking individual. He too taught me many lessons. I remember, one in particular, he had just finished closing up this pharmacy that he operated, and we were walking towards his car, and there were a couple of gangsters. Basically, they're just these young hoodlums leaning against his car.
Oh boy!
And of course, these guys can be dangerous. I encountered them myself a couple of times. They drew a knife on me and things like that. But my dad taught me how to handle these types. He just walked up to them, grabbed them by the shirt and just threw them away from the car, and cursed them, of course, told them never to come back. And that to me basically showed me how to handle bullies. And you have to confront them. You have to confront bullies. Yeah. But that was one of the things I learned from my dad. He was a good man. He just had this illness with alcohol for much of the time we were growing up. So there were times that it was challenging.
Yeah. Bob, what kind of student were you in school, elementary school into high school? Did you gravitate or excel in certain subjects, have particular interests?
Well, I wasn't much of a student, although you'll appreciate this, Peter. In the 6th grade, I got the prime starring role in the Christmas, the Christmas show. I was Ebenezer Scrooge. And so, that was my one and only, starring role as an actor. I don't know how I got that role. I think, my 6th grade teacher thought I would do well at that. Anyway, I was kind of an average student until about my 2nd year in high school. And I owe it to my high school math teacher, algebra teacher. I was taking algebra at the time. I wasn't doing particularly well in math, but she kind of kicked my butt, and encouraged me to work hard at it because she thought I had some abilities in math. And, I owe it to her because, as a result of the hard work in that algebra class, I did become very interested in math at that point. And, as it turned out, I did graduate with honors, from high school.
Great.
And because of that, I was able to, have confidence that I could, pass the entrance exams for, entrance to the Air Force Academy.
Yeah. Were you much of a reader as a kid? Often, our parents don't have time to read. They are just working, and we don't see those grown-ups read, so we don't get into the reading habit. Were you much of a reader? And if so, what kind of books did you enjoy?
I was, actually, when I got serious about school and, like I said, my 2nd year in high school, two of the books I remember reading were 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, and the other one was God is My Co-Pilot. And those two books especially were the ones that gave me an interest in pursuing a career in the Air Force and actually going to the Academy. The Academy had just started in 1959, I think, was their first class in Colorado. Actually, it started in Denver and didn't move to Colorado Springs until I think 1962, or not 62. I'm sorry, 60 maybe.
Was there a reason that you wanted to particularly go into the military at that point in your life, and why the Air Force?
Well, like I said, those books were relatively inspirational. I think one of them was, well, both of them were made into movies.
They were.
I saw the movies. My uncle also was a combat vet of World War II, Battle of the Bulge. I think he encouraged me. And I had another uncle who had just gotten back from, he was at Guadalcanal during World War II. So I think those two guys kind of inspired me to go into the military. Plus, I wanted to go to college, and I wasn't a great athlete or a super scholar, so I didn't really have much of a chance of getting a scholarship. So, however, the academies, of course, are 4-year full rides, so that's why I decided to compete.
Before we go on to your life in the military, and this is just a point of personal curiosity for me because I am a movie maniac. When you were growing up, did your family go to the movies much, or did you go on your own much? And if so, what kind of films did you enjoy growing up?
Oh, I love the movies. Yeah, I would. Of course, at the time, movies were only about a quarter. So, yeah. I remember actually seeing The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
You obviously, this is an iconic film for those of us in this field.
Right.
Did you see it completely as an entertainment, or do you, at that moment in your life, say, maybe there's life in space and we're being visited, or was it just science fiction movies are great and this was a lot of fun?
Yeah, the latter. I wasn't taking UFOs seriously at all, or spacemen or anything like that. It was just entertainment. I just enjoyed going to the movies. Of course, it was a nice getaway.
Yeah.
I'm in the movies too.
Your path into the academy was not a really smooth one to start with. You had kind of a bumpy road to make it into the academy. Can you tell us a little bit about what transpired?
Yeah, I had gone ahead and competed, like I said, with a few other guys for my appointment through my congressman. Hollifield was his name, and I won the competition. And so I was really excited to receive a telegram from the Air Force Academy saying he had been accepted and report on this date. And then a week or so later, I got another telegram saying we're going to have to rescind the appointment. You're no longer qualified because we just saw in your medical exam that you had what's called a pilonidal cyst. It's a cyst that kind of burrows into the flesh, and they thought that kind of thing could become cancerous. Mm-hmm. So that's what disqualified me, and I was really broken up about it. Of course, my mother wanted to support me, and she said, "No, we're going to take care of this. You're going to get an operation, and you're going to try again." So even though at that time, of course, we didn't have any medical insurance, and this required a hospital operation. So she worked hard. I know she worked hard as a seamstress and whatever else she could do, take in laundry, and somehow she got the money to get me that operation. And the cyst was removed, clean, no cancer. And so I applied again, and I won the appointment.
Wow.
That's a mama for you.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
The things our parents do for us that, well, we take for granted, or we just don't get the full impact or understanding of till we're wiser and older. In your book, Faded Giant, like me, as an author, I notice that you use certain quotations here and there, and one that you use in the book that stayed with me is an H.G. Wells quote, and it goes, "Human history becomes more and more a race between education and catastrophe." And not only has it stuck with me, but in rereading parts of your book in advance of the show, I thought, isn't it ironic how timely Wells's remarks remain? Never more than now, in a way. A true visionary in many respects. Now, you go into the Air Force, you have your basic training, and then did you go into specialty training that was going to take you into overseeing nuclear weaponry, or did that come later?
No, that came later. At that time, they didn't have any specialty training at the academy. We all got the same degree, basic science degree, or Bachelor of Science. And then we would go into our next assignments. So my next assignment was to go to flight school. I did not finish flight school for a combination of personal and other reasons why I don't want to get into here, but I was, I regretted that most of my life, not finishing that part of my training. After that, I was trained as a weapons controller, and basically this was training fighter interceptors on intercept missions. So that's basically what it was. I also flew the radio-controlled drone, a target drone, and this was over the Gulf of Mexico. I was stationed at Tyndall Air Force Base at the time, which is a great assignment, by the way. Right near Panama City, Florida, if any of you know where that is. It's right on the Gulf Coast in the Panhandle.
Nice.
Yeah. So I did that for a while, and then I decided to go ahead and try and get an assignment in Vietnam. Vietnam had just started to build up in 1965. I think it was the summer of 65 when I volunteered, and at the time they didn't have an assignment for me. And then a week later they called me personnel and said, we've got a good assignment as a missile officer, and you can also get an advanced degree in engineering. So I decided to accept that, and right after I accepted it, another week passed, and then they did have an assignment for me in Vietnam. But at that point, I had met quite a few of my classmates coming back and telling me about the disaster that was impending in Vietnam, and it was a tough decision, but I decided to go ahead and go into missiles. So that's how I accepted the missile assignment.
Okay.
And so I got to, through training, as a launch officer, and then wound up at Malmstrom Air Force Base. And, let's see, it would have been, late August of 1966.
Okay. So this is where, for those of us in the world of UFO studies, the most focused part of general interest starts. Again, it's fair to say that up until this point in your life, you had absolutely no interest, didn't think about, were not in any way drawn to the subject of truly anomalous UFOs, life in space, aliens, anything like that.
Well, to tell you the truth, I know I discussed this with you earlier, Peter, but I recall now that while I was at Tyndall Air Force Base and working the skies there with fighters, controlling fighters, we did have at least one that I recall of what we called a fast walker. It was by the way, we had radar, raw radar at that time. We didn't have the fancy radar that they've got now. This was pure raw radar, but this thing was flying much faster than any fighter jet. And we were painting it on the scope, and a few of us just watching it, and it was above 60,000 feet. I think 60,000 feet was our limit as far as tracking radar returns. And but again, it didn't really impress enough for me to take an interest in UFOs. So you're right. When I first got to Malmstrom, I had no strong interest in the UFO subject. However, just prior to the incident, we did have, a month or two prior, we had many reports in the local newspaper that, farmers and other individuals in Montana had been seeing strange lights in the sky. And, but again, it was not definitive. It was just, mouth. A strong interest in it.
Now, once you were at Malmstrom, how long was it before you received an assignment that while you were working at that job, your life changed forever? And I have to say, Bob, in our many conversations and talking a few days ago in preparation for the show, and understanding that, among other things, there were questions I might ask, but that you were not clear to give answers to. Things stay classified more than half a century later, and that's just fine. And if I push a little here, just let me know, and we'll move on to the next question. It's just my own curiosity, and thinking back, everything that I know about a job with responsibility that it's almost hard for most of us to wrap our heads around. When I describe what your responsibility was, everything I think I know about it, I've learned from novels or documentaries or the movies or declassified documents. But at a certain point, you were assigned to command a battery of 10 Minutemen intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, these were nuclear missiles. They were all targeted to some enemy target overseas, and we can leave it at that. And if indeed you and the other officer charged with the specific responsibility of launching, if you were ordered to do so and that order was confirmed, you had as much power as any human being in a way has ever had on Earth. You could start World War III. The two of you could kill many millions of people. If one of you did not follow the order to turn your key at the console at the moment that you needed to. The other one was within their military prerogative to end your life and have somebody else step in and do the job that was necessary. Am I over dramatizing here?
I would say no, not really. We did have, at the time in 1967, there were, just two of us in the capsule, the hardened capsule underground. We were 60 feet underground. We were locked in. I think you're going to show, the huge door that we had there. And we did have weapons. We did have handguns. The handguns, of course, were to defend ourselves in case there was some incursion into the capsule. I don't know how anybody would have gotten in, but they were also to protect the system if one of us went berserk, for example.
Right.
But at the time, the two crew members, I being one of them, could have launched missiles unilaterally. In other words, of course, we're not supposed to do something like that without a very intricate system of security procedures and get orders to launch. But I'm just saying that at that time, and I'm sure the systems have been changed now for additional protections, but
sure,
at that time we could have launched World War III. Just the two of us.
And this is the old analog days where you are literally sitting at a console and you each turned a key, a regular key at the same moment, if I might ask?
That's right. Yeah, we had to turn keys in order to launch the missiles. After we armed, of course. We'd have to arm them first and then turn keys. Now these missiles at the time, I later found out through public sources, okay? So I'm not revealing any classified information, but the nuclear weapons were the equivalent of about 800 kilotons of TNT.
Oh my God.
And just as a perspective, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs were about 15 to 20 kilotons or 1,000 tons of TNT. So
each one of those missiles.
Each one of the missiles had the equivalent of 800 kilotons, almost a megaton or a million tons of TNT.
I can't even begin to imagine.
Yes, that's right. It's unimaginable how much damage they could have done. And in 1967 or 68, I think we had reached a peak in the total nuclear weapons stockpiles worldwide were about, I'm going to say, 60,000 worldwide, including the U.S., Russia, China, I think were the main and nuclear powers at the time. And of course, we were involved in the Cold War at the time.
Yes.
Involved in Vietnam, and the Cuban Missile Crisis was in 1962. So it was not that long after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Where we went to a DEFCON 2, by the way. DEFCON 2 is, as I recall, attack, prepare for a nuclear war, basically prepare for an attack. And then DEFCON 1 would have been attack is imminent. So we were just one step from nuclear annihilation during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Were young officers like you who were selected for this almost indescribable responsibility, Without going into details, did you have to clear different kinds of screenings and interviews and psychological tests or loyalty tests?
Well, we were all sworn, we were officers that were controlling the missiles, and we were all sworn, officers to, sworn oath to the Constitution, of course, and took our military oaths. As I recall, we did have some psychological screening. But of course, I don't know how you can depend on that, because, we lived normal lives. In fact, I went through a divorce in Montana, during my time there. So there were stressors that, we had to deal with. But yeah, that was the situation. And I might add, it's pretty much still the situation as far as nuclear weapons. I think we have three or four still active nuclear missile bases in the United States, and these missiles are still basically on a hair trigger. So the danger of nuclear war, of course, has increased since '67. Then we only had about 3 or maybe 4 nuclear powers, and now we've got 9 nuclear powers, including Pakistan and India, who are essentially at war with each other.
Yes.
So we've got 2 nuclear powers or nations at war with each other.
Just as a parenthetical memory, in the early 1970s, when Pakistan and India did go to war with each other, I was a young guy with a pack on my back seeing the world, and I crossed that border about a week and a half before war was declared. And the tension that I felt traveling through Pakistan, I had never experienced anything like in my life. India, I was able to kind of get lost in, and it didn't catch up with me again till I got to Calcutta. And occasionally at that point in the conflict, you could hear muffled artillery fire, and streams of refugees were coming into that city at the rate of 30 or 40,000 a day at the height of the conflict. Just a random memory, but I'm going to just show a couple of images here that I took about half a dozen years ago. My dear friend in Roswell, Pat Cooligan, arranged for myself and he and his wife and another couple, a guy that he worked with on the job, to visit an old Atlas II nuclear silo just outside of Roswell. It was owned by a retired Army officer, as I recall, who was an expert on this part of the program. In fact, he became the go-to guy for the Pentagon because, embarrassingly, back then, of course, nothing was on computer. It was all hard copy. The Pentagon, one way or another, all of their manuals, they disappeared, and he became the scholar on it. And he and his family were restoring this silo to be very much the look and the feel, minus the missile, that it would have had back in '62 or so. And we spent about 4 hours underground there. Like you say, the control area is about 60 feet underground. And then you get into that gantry area and you're looking down into a pit 100 or so feet deep. And, your imagination is activated. But this is the plaque that was donated by the 579th, a reunion organization for the Strategic Air Command there. And it would have been part of the old Walker Air Base in Roswell. This was the Atlas SM level missile. And we entered through a very modest entry on a piece of rural property, looking back the way that we came. And this piece of hardware you're probably familiar with. This was I forget whether it was a 2-ton or a 4-ton blast door designed to withstand a nuclear hit. Again, the top of the silo was covered with a very simple 2 very big slabs of metal that would be blown open before the missile took off. So I guess you wouldn't get it through this door, but it wouldn't look good if you were hit. And heading down the stairway, then there came this area off of the main control room where you passed through, went up those stairs, and that far door there would take you into the areaway where you look down from essentially a balcony. Race found this great stock shot of one of your former tenants.
Yeah, that's a bit, man.
Yeah. I look at these things. I think many of our listeners and viewers, our subscribers who are able to see this rather than anybody that's just listening live right now. And, it's a fairly innocuous rocket-looking shape. But to think of the amount of wholesale death that these objects can deal out and the amount of anxiety they create in the world and the world that we live in. I'm just very thankful that we had people like you rather than other people. I say that with a smile because last month, a friend came over for a couple of days. We socially distanced, had a good couple of days catching up, but we rewatched Dr. Strangelove, which for me is the darkest of the dark comedies. It's genius level. If any of you out there have not seen it, this is as dark as humor gets. And you and I are old enough to remember seeing it in the theaters. And that was a film I laughed my way through. And then at the end, I remember as the stock footage of nuclear weapons were going off and Vera Lynn is singing, "We'll meet again," and on, sitting there in that theater thinking, this isn't funny at all. Oh, God.
No, actually, I too would recommend everybody see that movie. That and Failsafe.
Yes.
I don't think the public as a whole takes this subject too seriously. Of course, the idea of complete annihilation is, I don't think anybody thinks about that much at all, but, the nuclear, like I said, there are about 20,000 nuclear bombs that are readily available to militaries throughout the world right now. 20,000. The United States has about 10,000. I'd say 5,000 of those are probably at the ready. We have 10,000 stockpiled. Russia has about the same. And now we've got, of course, Kim Jong-un. We haven't heard from Kim Jong-un lately. Last we heard he had a love affair going with Donald Trump. And, but I don't think Donald has talked him out of, develop his nuclear weapons. So we are in a very serious situation with nukes, and we have to get serious about getting back to, the New START treaty and controlling, Iran, for example. Yes.
The fact that the news has been filled with so many other things, and in fact, it's been really some years, I guess, the most recent going back to President Trump's attempts to establish a more cordial relationship with North Korea, which about a week and a half ago, the statement that Kim made was, America is our, most primary enemy. So it looked like that traction really didn't stay. But because it's been out of the news, because we don't talk about nuclear war, we don't talk about nuclear weaponry, it's almost as though it's gone away, and nothing, as you know, could be further from the truth.
That's right.
I'll tell you, we're going to, in the next few minutes, be coming into the end of our first hour and then take about a 3-minute break. And I think it's a perfect time to understand that when we return, we will be getting into the particulars of the incident, which is the center of, the reason you're out there as a public figure in this work. I think you'd agree with me that in doing this work, the greatest perk on the job, because it's sure a terrible way to make a living, is we get to meet some extraordinary people that we would have never met any other way in our lives. And occasionally, in the past, and I'm confident again in the future, that we'll be able to travel again and get out there in the world, which is something I know you love to do as much as I do.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get back to Italy.
This is Peter Robbins with Robert Salas on Meanwhile Here on Earth, and we will return very shortly and pick up where we left off at that point. On
Intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
Do you really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
Welcome back. This is Peter Robbins and Robert Salas on tonight's edition of Meanwhile Here on Earth. Before we go on to the incident itself, Bob, being kind of a freak for Cold War history on a certain level, having lived through it as a kid primarily, and being a major movie maniac, you had mentioned Failsafe, a very popular novel of the early 60s, which I remember reading back then seeing the absolutely terrific, chilling film version, and rereading about 6 months ago. And it really holds up very well. We have a situation, without any spoilers here, where there's a chance that an accident will cause a missile to penetrate the Soviet Union. And the President of the United States has to make a very hard decision. And Henry Fonda made a very good President of the United States in that film.
Yes. Did a great job. Did you have a specific question about that one, or?
Not about the movie, no. Now, we come to a day in, it's January of 1967, and you are on duty with your full responsibility with your brother officers for these 10 nuclear missiles, and something, to put it mildly, non-standard happens. Can you describe how that shift began and where things changed dramatically?
Yeah, well, part of the routine is, since we have to be on alert for 24 hours, one of us would be taking a nap when the other one was on alert and in command of the system. So in this case, I was in command. My commander, the crew commander, was taking a rest break. And I get a call from my topside guard. We had about 6 security guards topside. And he called down and said he was seeing some strange lights in the sky. Now, the way he described it, these lights would be traveling at very high speed, stop on a dime, a reverse course, make 90-degree turns, no noise, no engine sound at all. And basically he was looking at a light show, above the facility, and just wanted to report it. I know he was hinting, these were UFOs, but, I even said, you mean like UFOs? And he said, well, I can't explain it, sir. They're not aircraft. So that was very strange. Of course, I had no thoughts at all about UFOs at the time. So I thought it was just an interesting phone call, a mystery for sure, but, I didn't know what else to say to him other than to say, well, report back if anything more happens with those lights. And then he hung up. And then it was within, I'd say, a minute or two. And then he called back, and this time he was literally screaming into the phone.
Wow.
I had a hard time calming him down, and he blurted out that there was a reddish orange light, relatively large lighted object hovering just above the front gate of the facility. And he had all the guards out there, their weapons were drawn. I think he was asking me for permission to fire on the thing, but he said, what do we do about this, sir? And the only thing I could think of, and of course, the way he was yelling into the phone, he was literally screaming into the phone. He was out of control, was to secure the fenced area. And I said, make sure this fenced area is secure and use force if you have to, but, don't let anything inside that fenced area. And then he hung up. He said one of his guards got injured. I immediately, for some reason, it was just a natural instinct, of course. I looked over at the panel that showed the status of our missiles. They were all green at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I went over and woke up my commander, started telling him about these phone calls. And just as I was beginning to tell him about the phone calls, we get klaxons, bells and whistles and klaxons going off in the capsule, and very loud. We both jump up and look at the panel, and here our missiles are going down one by one, and all 10 of them went down within seconds, while this object was still up there. I mean, this was within seconds of that phone call. So that was what happened. I can continue if you'd like.
Please.
All right. So, at that point, we grabbed our checklists. We had, of course, to run through procedures. And one of the procedures was to check what we called a voice reporting system, BURSA. And it was just, it would call out the problem in each of the missiles. Now these missiles were about a mile or so away from our central location, which was the capsule, what we call the Launch Control Center. And on all the call-outs from this was an audio message we'd get on each of the missile sites. It was guidance and control system failure. Guidance and control system failure. Now, on two of the missiles, we did have security indications, security lights. And these were lights that lit up when we had incursions in the actual facility, the launch facilities where the missiles are actually located. Of course, it's another fenced area, very secure, but at times we'd get incursions. Usually a jackrabbit or something would jump the fence. But on two of these sites, we did have incursions. So I got on the phone, talked to the security guard upstairs, and ordered him to send crews, security guards, out to those two sites. And when they reported into him, they reported seeing these lighted objects or UFOs above those sites. They didn't go any further. We told them to come back, and since the missiles were down anyway, but they came back very shook up. Then my commander turned to me. He had been calling the command post.
Yeah.
Back at Malmstrom, which was at Great Falls, Montana, about 100 miles to the west of where we were. And he turns to me and says, the same thing happened at another site. Now, I thought the same thing had happened that night. He didn't go into details. But I had forgotten even that statement. When I went public, I had even forgotten that. But after talking to him later on, some 27 years later, I remembered that part of the incident where he turned to me and said the same thing happened at another site, which he got this information from the command post. After that, we pretty much coordinated the maintenance crews that were sent out to get the sites back operational. And they were still working on that when we were relieved the next morning. So the next morning we were relieved by another crew. We told them what happened, of course. Then I immediately went upstairs to try to question the main guard, and he was very nervous. Didn't really want to talk to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out why he was so reluctant to talk, but later I realized that he had been ordered not to talk to us about the incident or any more details. He hemmed and hawed. Finally, I got basically the size of the object was some 40, 50 feet long. It was bright red-orange light, like I said. He said he couldn't see a structure, although it seemed like there was a structure within the light, oval-shaped structure, but that's about the best he could do at the time. Then they had a helicopter waiting for us, so we had to get going. We helicoptered back to the base and immediately ordered to the commander's office, the squadron commander's office. Directly from the helicopter, we went in the office, and there was man from AFOSI, Air Force Office of Special Investigation, along with my squadron commander, who was an old B-17 World War II pilot. Nothing shook him up except when I walked in there, he was white as a ghost. I'd never seen him like that. And right away I went up to him and said, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah.
And he didn't say a word. He said, it was not, although he did say it was not an Air Force exercise of any sort.
Yeah.
And then, the guy from AFOSI shoved these papers in our face and said, "Sign here." I said, "What is this? We've already got, beyond top secret clearance.
Yeah.
There's no reason we have to sign another non-disclosure statement." So I argued with him a little bit, but it did no good. He told us we had to sign. And that's where I recall actually seeing the words, Leavenworth Prison.
That would stick in your mind.
That was actually on the non-disclosure statement, that we would spend time in Leavenworth if we ever spoke of what we just experienced. So, we both signed, and that was that. I didn't speak about it again, until, 1994, when I saw that article in, that paragraph, small paragraph in Timothy Good's book, Above Top Secret.
Bob, do you know when the missiles came back online again?
Well, it didn't take long. What they had to do was basically reorient the guidance package. We had what's called a level platform or gyroscope. It was a gyroscopic or inertial guidance system. Inertial meaning it would guide itself based on calculations made through basically a gimbal system, and that had to be, that level platform had to be oriented once again, so that it knew where true north was, etc. And that didn't take long. There was no damage to the systems itself. None of the electronics were damaged. The missiles themselves were not damaged. So and they could have been damaged. But what this object would have had to do was send a signal through 60 feet of earth and concrete, and penetrate what we had triply shielded cable system that went to each of the missiles. They were underground cables. So this signal would have had to penetrate that and then send a signal to a specific piece of hardware called the guidance system package, in the missile, and upset that level platform, so that the missiles would shut down. The reason they shut down is because if launched, they wouldn't have been able to find the target. They were basically disoriented.
Wow.
So it was a shutdown. They shut down the missiles, but they did not damage the missiles in any way.
Amazing.
When you think about it, it's pretty damn amazing.
It is, and not the worst thing that could happen on a certain level. I know this story, and I know stories like it, but hearing you tell it in the detail that you it's equally fascinating and chilling, and just fills me with questions, yet once again that nobody's going to be answering for any of us. But within how long after this were you approached, so to speak, whether it was Air Force Office of Special Investigations or by another agency or office, and essentially asked to become part of the secret-keeping cabal?
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I was studying for my master's degree in engineering, aeronautical engineering, aerospace engineering, basically, at Malmstrom. I started that program when I first got there. I was about to finish up, and so I get a call one day from my commander saying, you're going to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I said, what for? I said, you're going to finish up your degree there and then go on to your next assignment. I said, well, I kind of liked it in Montana.
Too bad.
I didn't really want to leave. I said, I can finish my degree right here.
Actually, no.
I said, no, you're going to finish it at Wright-Patterson. So, I went to Wright-Patterson, got there, early in, 69, summer of 69, I think. Not long after I got there, I was taking classes, and I met an old classmate of mine. He was actually the class ahead, but from the academy. He said, well, it's great to see you, Bob. We're going to have a job for you. I said, what kind of job? He said, well, we'll talk about that in a little while. So blah, blah, blah. Nice to see you, etc. I didn't hear from him for I didn't hear from him again, actually, but a couple of, maybe a few weeks later, I get a call from the base psychiatrist's office, and I had no reason to get a call from the psychiatrist. I had not complained about any mental health issues, etc. But I was ordered to meet with the base psychiatrist on this day and time, so I showed up. Went up to the third floor of the hospital, and what was strange about that, when I got off the elevator, was there were a few lights. It's just dark, and I had to look around for the directions to the psychiatrist's office, and finally found him, walked down the hall, was met by a sergeant, who said, wait here, the psychiatrist will be with you. And I said, what's this all about? And, I hadn't complained about anything. And so I was a little nervous at that point. There was nobody else around. I mean, this was like, well, it's pretty spooky. Let's put it that way. So, I wait around, and he comes back, says, okay, the psychiatrist will see you now. I said, I don't want to go see the psychiatrist. By this time, I had become suspicious, about what the heck a psychiatrist would want with me. So I said, look, why don't you tell the psychiatrist to come out here and tell me what this is all about, then I'll talk to him.
Yeah, that's the way it works in the military.
Now the psychiatrist was a full colonel, so I was basically challenging him. And he comes back after a while and says, well, you can go now, sir. And so no explanation at all. And he's just dismissed me. So I left.
Wow.
Now, of course, at this time, this was early 1969. Project Blue Book was shut down by the Air Force.
Right.
Everybody knows, or well, most people should know what Project Blue Book was. It's the Air Force study on UFOs. But, the Air Force, after the Condon investigation, stating that there was nothing to this subject, shut down the Blue Book investigation. Yeah. And those were headquartered, Blue Book was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force.
And I was going to ask, when you were ordered to be assigned to Wright-Patterson, you had no idea or connection that this base is legendary in terms of its association with the UFO cover-up, so to say.
No, I had no idea that Project Blue Book was based there at Wright-Pat. But I strongly suspect that what they would have done if I had accepted the invitation to see the psychiatrist. And they would have read me in somewhat and got me involved in the UFO secrets.
Yeah.
Basically to control me, because I was a prime witness to the incident.
Yeah.
And I later found out, in my investigations that this is how they deal with witnesses. They first of all, they disperse them to different bases after they witness something. And
yes.
so they congregate and talk about it. And then they do, recruit some of them by reading them in to the subject, and the secrets. And that's
sure
part of the way they keep them quiet.
I can only imagine for some people there's a certain amount of ego gratification. You are now part of an inner circle. You are more knowledgeable than the next person over. You are one of the secret keepers, albeit at a lower level than you may want to imagine, but it's a pretty seductive degree, insidious way to keep you quiet. Although
right.
God knows there's lots more ways to keep you quiet. You ultimately left the Air Force
right.
with the rank of captain.
Yes.
Yes. And what did you move on to next? I can't imagine that you left the thoughts about UFOs and their implications behind you, but you now moved into the civilian realm.
Yeah. So basically I was, I guess this was my way of demonstrating against the Vietnam War. I decided
yes.
to resign from the Air Force in 1971. The only thing I could think I wanted to do was ski. So I went to Colorado.
Good for you.
Took my wife and child. I had a daughter then.
Yeah.
To Colorado, Denver, and got a job at Martin Marietta. I worked on space shuttle proposals there, I think on the what we called the manipulator arm at the time, the big arm that comes out of the...
Yeah, we remember it.
And then for about a year or so, and then got a job at Rockwell International in L.A., as a reliability and safety engineer, and then went on to work for Federal Aviation Administration as a aircraft structures engineer, certification of aircraft.
Now, after a certain amount of time, this brings us up to the mid-'80s, specifically 1985.
Right.
And then something happens in your life that has, it's fair to say, at least as much impact as the events of 1967, if that's a fair characterization.
Oh, it was very impactful.
Tell us what happened.
Yes, my wife and I had two children by then. I had a young son, about 8 years old. My daughter was she was about 15 at the time. One night, I woke up and saw a bluish light coming from our living room. And I woke up my wife, and she also saw the light. And I told her I was going to get up and investigate because it felt like there was a burglar in our house.
Sure.
And so I started to get up off the bed, and all of a sudden I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. Absolutely could not move, and I tried. I recall, and this was this was a real memory. This was not a dream. It was not some kind of anything. Anyway, it was not a dream, because I recall struggling really hard to get my mobility back because we had two children in the house, of course, and my wife, and I felt that we were in extreme danger. So finally, I just was exhausted. trying to get my legs to work, my arms to work. I couldn't move at all. Next thing I know, I'm looking at, I think you've got an image there. I'm looking at the doorway to our bedroom, and I see this figure. Have you got that image, Peter? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I see this figure. It had a hood on. I remember the two dark eyes, but little else about what it looked like. I remember the hood. I remember the dark eyes. And then, so next thing I know, I sense there are what appear to be children to me.
Yeah.
And again, I can't describe them because I don't have a definite memory. All I can say is they seemed like small children.
Yeah.
And, there were a few of them. I don't know how many, but before long I was being lifted off the bed and floated towards the window. Now, this may be a funny story to some. I recall as I was floating towards the window that I didn't think they could open that window because I latched it. I remember latching that window before I went to bed. And so it was locked, latched. But lo and behold, they took me right through the window. Now, I know you don't think this is unusual because of your experience with Bud Hopkins, but,
yeah. For some of our listeners, however,
I know how crazy this sounds. I know how crazy it sounds, but I retrieved these memories under therapy.
Hypnotic regression.
Therapy. So, this is what happened. I went right through the window and they went right with me.
Yep.
The next thing I know, I'm on a table aboard a craft. It seems very white or light in there. All I can remember is the walls were curved. But then right away they're showing me a needle. And you see the needle approximately looks something like that, but it was very long. It was a long needle, at least a foot long. And they were telling me telepathically that they were going to insert this needle into my groin area and it would not hurt. Well, they proceeded to do that, and I can tell you it was the most excruciating pain I ever had. It did hurt, and I just told them that somehow, and almost immediately the pain went away. After that, I was sent down along the curved wall of the ship. I think I was taken to another cubicle. And by the way, I was floating all this time. I wasn't walking. I was floating with escorts, these two small beings on either side. Yeah. Taken to another cubicle where there was another. This guy had a uniform on. He seemed like a doctor, but anyway, turned me around and he poked me with two fingers along my spine. He went all the way down my spine, poked me with two fingers, and at that point, they took me out of that cubicle through a curved hallway, and I saw a bright white light, and poof, I was back into my bed. The next morning, neither my wife nor I recalled any of this. None of it. Now,
classic.
It wasn't until, so this was 85. In 2007, I think it was, I was in, Ireland, at a conference, and there was a speaker, abductee, talking about seeing a blue light before she was taken. Something went off in my head. I turned to my wife, who was sitting next to me, and said, "Do you recall seeing a blue light in our bedroom a long time ago?" And she said, "Yes, she did." Now, you know my wife.
Yep.
My wife does not make up stories.
Nope.
She's very honest.
Yes.
Of course, we've been married for over 50 years. She actually recalled, and that was confirmation.
Yeah.
And thereon, I went and got I think I've had 4 separate hypnotic sessions.
Yeah. Did sessions simply confirm the memories that had come back to you, or was detail added to it?
I acquired, I recalled certain things under hypnosis that I hadn't recalled at all.
Sure.
I don't remember exactly what I had recalled initially, but after going through these regression sessions, I did recall these details, and these are about the only details I recall that I just mentioned to you.
Gosh, Bob. As you know, when you mentioned Bud, you were referring to Bud Hopkins,
right.
Who was a dear friend of mine for 35 years. About half of that time, I worked as his assistant. For anyone in the audience not familiar with him, Bud was arguably the pioneer figure in the organized scientific study of this most intriguing, anxiety-provoking, complex, controversial aspect of the world of UFO study, the so-called UFO abduction phenomenon. And while you were describing that, and that's a more full description than I've ever heard from you, my mind was going back through faces and times working with Bud or being with folks who had had these experiences. And when you were talking about being moved through that curved hallway, the only person I could think about was my late sister Helen, whose conscious memory of her experiences, which she shared with me years after the fact, was what brought me into this work, and with a vengeance. So I thank you for that. And you are now at a point, you are woke, and you realize that this has happened to you. Did you remember knowing the ridicule aspect associated with making such a outrageous claim in the minds of most people, how you handled it, at least initially? You shared it with Marilyn. She remembered. Did you talk to anyone else in the immediate aftermath of this recovered memory?
Other than the people that gave me the regressions, no. I didn't speak to anyone else about this until I think it was 2013. So
right.
When I did speak at a CERO conference, CERO is the group that's headed up by Yvonne Smith.
Yes.
You probably know Yvonne.
Yes. She's great.
And I just made a decision prior to speaking there at that conference that I was going to tell my story.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to confirm the fact that this is part of the UFO phenomenon.
Yes.
There's no question about it, as you well know.
Yep.
There is no question that they are abducting people probably by the millions and have been.
Yes.
For who knows how long.
Exactly.
And so they've got some sort of an objective in doing it.
They do. The euphemism when I started in the work was they're experimenting. Whether they were or not, there is a program in place where they are doing this, and it is leading to something that we can only make educated guesses about.
Right. We can only guess. So, So no question. And, of course, Marilyn has had her own experience, similar. Well, probably the same night I did, because she has some different memories, and also she has had other experiences.
Yeah. At this point, I think we should actually spend a little time talking about, with all of this in your background, and a news event transpires only a few years ago where we learn through the kind of alternate information community that what seems to be a small number of mummies have been discovered in the Nazca area of Peru, and that it was very controversial. Immediately there are claims the likelihood is fake, to make some money or to get some attention. But when you saw a certain aspect of these mummies in the photos that went out in the news services, it galvanized something in you, and you knew you had to go there, see for yourself, do some study, and make your own conclusions. Can you tell us something about that, Bob?
Absolutely. One thing I didn't mention is during my abduction, I remember seeing the fingers of the being holding the needle.
Yeah.
He placed the needle right in front of my eyes, and I recall the fingers were very long and bony, very long and bony. And when I first heard about the Nazca mummies from a friend who wanted me to come down to Peru with him, he was going to go down and check it out. I dismissed the whole thing until I went to the website where they had photographs of some of these mummies and saw the elongated fingers. Now, our fingers have 1, 2, 3 segments, right?
Last time I checked.
These fingers had 5 segments.
Whoa.
They were extremely long, and these are tridactyls. There are only 3 fingers and 3 toes in the photographs. So that immediately caught my interest, and I called this guy back and said, I'm going with you. So this was on our own dime. I had to talk my wife into spending thousands of dollars to fly me down there. You can imagine that conversation. But
absolutely wonderful. I'm sure she was delighted.
on basically what she thought was a whim. But I was this was very important for me to go, I felt, and it turned out to be I'm very glad I went.
Yeah.
I went to the group that had been studying, that had collected these mummies and studied them. We're having a conference actually a presentation to one of the Congress people of the government of Peru in the Congressional Office Building there.
Wow.
In Peru, and I was lucky enough to be invited to that. I sat down and listened to the presentations, which were highly technical, and I'm talking DNA analysis, analysis from X-ray, and that machine that sees everything. I forget what they call it.
CAT scan or
exactly, CAT scan, X-rays. Other tests they had done, very detailed, and these were very qualified people.
Yeah.
They came from all over the world, from Russia, from Switzerland, and the DNA analysis, the aging analysis had been done by laboratories worldwide. These are respected, authentic laboratories. That they are real, they are not fake.
Yeah.
And later I was able to actually hold these mummies in my own hand.
Wow.
And I got special access. So I am personally certainly convinced that these are real or were real beings at one point. Any of your listeners can go to the Alien Project. It's the website, and see the photographs and the details of these analyses that were done.
Now, if they were living and standing up, what was about their height, Bob?
They would be under 2 or 3 feet.
Wow.
Except for one, which they call Maria. Excuse me. Maria is about 5'7".
Goodness.
If she were to lay out flat, 5'7", but again, 3 toes, 3 fingers, a very unusual being. And they found that in 2 of the mummies now, they found eggs in their abdomens.
Mm.
So that's tends to the idea that they are reptilian in nature, because reptiles, of course, lay these eggs. Yeah. The investigations are ongoing. Now they're being done by ICA. It's a university, one of the top universities in Peru, which will be doing more tests and validating this. Of course, this was short-stopped by a COVID virus. They're experiencing the virus also. Sure. But that will continue this year.
You know, I, of course, remember when this story broke. Being a bit rhetorical, I was familiar with all the specs that you're talking about. And I remember my first impression decidedly was, this has every earmark of being a fabrication. Some very clever person, put together the pieces quite literally. It wouldn't be without precedent. And that there was going to be some serious money to be made. And books would be written, a documentary would be made, they would be on exhibit and then I have a friend in New York City who, like you, was so taken by the evidence that he was studying that he went down there as well and became, like you, very knowledgeable about them and started to do battle with a lot of people who had been like me. Intellectual battle, and really just like us talking about UFOs and abductions. Look at the evidence. And with that in mind and doing our best, as I recall, these were dated about 800 AD or 800 years ago.
They range in date from hundreds of years to thousands of years.
Okay. That just trying to think as logically as you can in this hyper dramatic scenario, if these beings, when these beings were here and alive, were they interacting with humans? Were they hiding from humans? But we know that the process of mummification is a conscious decision. It takes work. It is usually only accorded to beings who are respected. A life after life. And that started to take hold of me too. The idea that whether or not they saw them as friend or foe, gods or guides, mysterious intruders, or just another type of being here on earth with us, that they were accorded this kind of preparation and send-off. And that was actually very touching, I think. Any thoughts that you had in that realm? Because you were there. I mean, you could feel the area where, this all happened. And
I did not go to the location where the beings were found. That's right in the middle of the desert there in Peru on Nazca Plain. However, the way it was described was they didn't go through a kind of an Egyptian type of mummification process. They were found in this area where there was
a white powder, I remember.
A white powder, and it seemed like this was kind of an exhibit of beings of all of them were tridactyl. They were all tridactyl, but they were of different sizes and different ages. So I don't know why there would have been such an exhibit. It was found in an underground cave, very well hidden.
And perfectly preserved.
The beings were perfectly preserved. Now, the anatomical structure and other features of these mummies is such that they haven't been able to find any description of any earthly creature that might have evolved into these. Of course, there's no description of anything that looks like these now. So it's a big mystery as to how they got here, whether they evolved on Earth or not. There are a couple of dinosaurs that were identified that could have evolved over millions of years into something like this, but very strange mystery.
Looking back on all this, Bob, you and I and our colleagues continue in this work. The ridicule factor has lessened noticeably in the last few years, and that's welcome. And the audience of individuals who are now genuinely interested in these types of topics is expanding. What would you suggest, or how best do we as a community go forward to try to educate people to the difference between these things we're talking about tonight, some of them very hands-on, real experiential things that you have lived through, and wild claims of other people in paranormal studies, in ufology, of things that I think are based on legend, myth, lore, but not really grounded. How do we sort the wheat from the chaff, so to say?
Yeah. Good question, Peter. This has been a constant bane on our serious study of the UFO phenomenon. Anybody out there that's interested in talking about this or researching it needs to do thorough research of what we would call credible researchers. For example, you and I can point to certain books on the Roswell incident. We can also, like you have done, talk about the Rendlesham incident with authenticity, because I know you've gone through that process, and as far as and also with abductions. So people like yourself and people like Kathleen Marden, of course, are people that take this subject very seriously, have studiously written about it. Stanton Friedman, of course, comes to mind, and others. It's not easy to separate the wheat from the chaff, but we do have to work hard at that.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there that just, want exposure, get themselves in the limelight.
One book I would like to recommend to our audience, and I am somebody old school. There's a world of information out there on the internet. E-readers are remarkable. You can have 1,000 books on there or more. But if you're serious about learning more about this subject, build or continue to build or begin to build a a library. And this book right here, Faded Giant, is an outstanding addition to your library. The things that Bob was only able to touch on in our, 2 hours is a good amount of time, but it's still limited. It's all here. And it's a marvelous book, and it is backed up by documentation and documents. You and Jamie did a great job on it, and I recommend it without reservation.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you guys writing it. Not many people who have had the experience that you have had, for all the understandable reasons in the world. And we will be writing to you in Leavenworth now that you have gotten yourself into extra trouble, and I'm sorry about that. But it made for a good radio show, so, What's next for you, Bob? Anything planned or ready to go once the curtain lifts, so to say?
All right. I've recommitted to finishing another book that I'm writing. It's called Agenda. It is going to be a fictional book based on fact. The facts that I've accumulated over the years on the phenomenon, but it tries to approach answers to just exactly what is the agenda of our extraterrestrial visitors. I'm going to make a promise I'll finish that this year.
Good. We need books, I think, especially like this at this point. You have earned the right to speculate. For me, it's kind of a conundrum in this country that everybody feels they have a right to an opinion, and of course they do. I hold back on having certain opinions because they'd be completely uninformed. I prefer not to have an opinion on something I know nothing about and to hopefully learn more about it and then develop an opinion. But I'm already looking forward to reading the book. Any projected time when you feel it might?
I can't give you that, Peter. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
I've been kind of working on it off and on for years. It's just
good.
Well, you know how time flies.
I do, and it'll be done when it's done. Basically, that's not a bad schedule to be working on. I am hopeful that we all are, of course, that we will be seeing changes over the next months, and whether it's through the vaccine or the kind of way that you are, as a naturopath, you and Marilyn, who is so knowledgeable on this subject, are dealing with potential, a return of the virus, et cetera, that our economy, that our opportunities to travel will open up again. And if they do, I'm slated to return to the UK in August, and at a conference that will be held in Hull. And our dear friend Jennifer Stein, a wonderful documentary filmmaker responsible for one of the finest true films out there in the UFO realm the past years, Travis, the True Story of Travis Walton, a multi-award-winning documentary feature-length film, will be speaking at this conference, but it will still be crop circle season. So our plan is, if it's a go, and of course we won't know that for some months, we will be returning to Wiltshire, to where you and I and she and Marilyn had some unforgettable days and had the incredible experience of visiting crop circles. So I am hopeful. I am hopeful that it will be happening. It's time for me to wrap up. And Robert Salas, I cannot thank you enough for joining us here tonight on Meanwhile Here on Earth. I hope that we get to see each other again this year. And for our listeners and viewers, next week's show, my guest will be Robbie Graham. Robbie is a film scholar and historian who has also pursued the UFO mystery for more than half his life. Robbie has lectured around the world on the subject, has been interviewed for BBC, on Coast to Coast AM, appeared in Vanity Fair, many other media venues. His articles have also appeared in numerous publications. His book, and it is now the definitive book on the subject as far as I'm concerned, Silver Screen Saucers, Sorting Fact from Fantasy in Hollywood's UFO Movies. He is also editor of Reframing the Debate, a publisher and editor-in-chief at August Night Press. Come back next week. We will be talking films, UFOs, and if you enjoyed this show, please share it with your friends. We are on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. This is Peter Robbins signing off for the evening.